Hi guys, so I've been receiving a lot of questions about weight and body type, or people mentioning, oh well, maybe I gained a lot of weight, does that change my body type? Or I lost a lot of weight, does that change my body type? Or does gaining weight make you more yin and change your body type to romantic, basically, or soft dramatic? Or if you're gamine, does that change you to soft gamine? So I'm going to discuss that, but before I get into it, of course, I have to say this is my interpretation of Kibbe's book Metamorphosis, and also it's just what I've seen personally with weight and body type. And I also want to note that this is not a discussion of health or healthy lifestyles or lack thereof. This is simply a relatively shallow discussion, in the big picture world of simply what these women's body types are and how their body types change with their weight. So another thing I have to say is that we'll be looking at severely underweight and overweight people as well. So if that's something that is upsetting to you, then this is definitely not the video for you. And without any more delay, let's just get into it. So let's compare Mary-Kate Olsen and Keira Knightley. Mary-Kate is soft gamine on Kibbe's list, and Keira is dramatic. So let's talk about the similarities. Of course, they're both very thin girls. Next, let's talk about the differences. So is Mary-Kate still soft gamine? And let's compare her to the idea sort of that as you lose weight, you become more dramatic, right? So there are some things about Mary-Kate that have become a bit more dramatic, in the sense that the flesh on her arms is no longer soft because there's so little flesh. At the same time, this is such an extreme example that in real life, your flesh would probably still be soft for your weight. And you can see that in Mary-Kate's cheeks here. So her cheeks, even though her weight is probably lower than Keira's, her cheeks are still pretty full for her weight. So I'm going to say that a lot in this video, for her weight, because the body types test is all about the proportions that you have within your own body. So for Mary-Kate's weight, her cheeks and the flesh on her cheeks is quite soft. Another thing to note is their difference in the waist. So Keira's waist is what Kibbe would call boyishly tapered, and Mary-Kate's waist is still a bit shorter. Her waistline is shorter, and it's quite small. And another thing is also their vertical line. So Mary-Kate's head is large in comparison to her body, so that makes her look very dainty, very small, and that's a yin characteristic. And no matter what her weight is, her head relative to the rest of her height will always be large for Mary-Kate, so that will make her look more dainty, more yin. So here is an example of their faces up close, and you can see again that the flesh on Mary-Kate's cheeks is still actually softer than the flesh on Keira's cheeks. And I think that in this picture, Mary-Kate is actually probably thinner than Keira. So now we can talk about Christina Aguilera. And Christina Aguilera, as you can see, at a much lower weight on the left and a bit heavier on the right. And on the left, I think she looks so wonderful in her theatrical romantic lines, and she is theatrical romantic. So on the right, same thing. I think that fur is maybe, I don't know, I think that's also pretty romantic, but I want to focus on the dress that she's wearing on the right. Again, theatrical romantic. It looks great. Why not? She looks great at a heavier weight, great at a lighter weight. Doesn't matter. She's theatrical romantic. Now let's talk about Tess Holliday, who is, in my opinion, theatrical romantic, and Anna O'Brien, dramatic classic. So that's how I would type these girls. And you can see some differences right away in their faces. So you can see that Tess Holliday has a lot more softness in her face. Her eyes are large, her lips are full, the shape of her nose is rounded. But at the same time, she has some sharpness, so she's theatrical romantic. Her cheekbones are high. Anna O'Brien, she has classic eyes. She has dramatic lips and a dramatic chin, but her, the flesh on her cheeks is also dramatic. Answer A. So now we can talk about Tess Holliday for some time now. Okay, so on the left, she is wearing classic lines. In the middle, maybe some soft natural, some elements of romantic. And on the far right, she's wearing theatrical romantic. And you can see that she looks really great in theatrical romantic there. You would think that, oh, well, she's larger now because she's gained weight, so she needs to include these large patterns, large shapes, as well as these very flowy fabrics with large curves. But you can see that in the middle, it doesn't really suit her as well as her Kibbe body type, which would be theatrical romantic, and I think she looks really great on the right. So now let's compare what a romantic would look like in these like really flowy lines. And you can see that Beyonce is wearing a pretty flowy dress, just like similar to kind of what Tess Holliday was wearing without the big patterns. But on Beyonce, it looks really natural and it makes sense because Beyonce is romantic, but Tess Holliday is still theatrical romantic. So Beyonce actually looks better, even though she's at a lighter weight, in the softer lines. And the same goes for Drew Barrymore. Drew, her hands are very small, everything about her is rounded, and she looks good in that very soft look. So here is Tess Holliday, and she is wearing, again, theatrical romantic lines, and she looks amazing in my opinion. Her hair looks amazing, the dress suits her perfectly, and not to mention, I would even say that that flower in her hair is a little bit too large for her. Again, you would think, oh well, she's larger now, so she needs to wear larger shapes, but she just has a dainty look to her because she is theatrical romantic. So that flower in her hair looks just a tiny bit separate from her, and if it was smaller, I would think she would look so much better. Well, you could say, she doesn't have a defined waist anymore. She must be wearing shapewear here. The truth is, for her weight, I think she has quite a defined waist. And again, I'm saying this for her weight. So if you compare her to Jamie Lee Curtis, who is a dramatic, and you can see that that little bit of weight on Jamie Lee Curtis looks like it is giving her less of a defined waist. And, in my opinion, I think Jamie on the left, has a less defined waist than Tess, and Tess is obviously at a much higher weight than Jamie. You could say, well, yeah, I mean, I can understand that Tess's flesh stays soft as she gains weight, but that is, that's not the issue. The issue is that Tess, if she were getting her sharpness from her flesh, instead of from her bones. So Tess is getting her sharpness from maybe the size of her hands and her cheekbones being, slightly more yang. Then she would, as she gains weight, go from theatrical romantic to romantic because her flesh would become softer and the sharpness would be gone. She would be romantic. Okay, so let me give you an example of Anna O'Brien now, and let's discuss her. So I would type Anna O'Brien as dramatic classic. I would say that the flesh on her cheeks is answer A. It's pretty taut for her weight, and I say this for her weight because again, the body types test and the Kibbe body type is all about the proportions within your own body. So then I would say that her eyes are answer C, her cheekbones are answer C, her nose is C, maybe tending slightly toward D, but still, yeah, maybe a little bit like that. Overall, I would say her vertical line is pretty long, so she looks pretty tall. So I would say she is dramatic classic, still quite proportional, and she even has the weight gain pattern of a dramatic classic of gaining weight in the hip area. So now let's compare Tess, theatrical romantic, and Anna, dramatic classic, and you can see right away the differences, or I hope you can see what I see, is that Tess looks a lot more dainty, a lot smaller than Anna, and Anna looks like she is more proportional, slightly more yang, and she looks taller, and Tess looks more rounded. Even though they're both overweight, Tess still looks more rounded, and she doesn't look more rounded and more yin only because she's overweight. She also looks more rounded because of all of her rounded features, her small vertical lines. She looks small, her head is pretty big relative to her the rest of her body. So here we can see Anna wearing maybe some theatrical romantic lines, and I think she does look a little bit awkward. It looks a bit separate from her. Definitely if Tess was wearing this look, it would look much better on Tess than it does on Anna, in my opinion. And here we can compare Anna on the right wearing a really soft hairstyle, and on the left she's wearing a bit more of of a dramatic classic hair, maybe. And what I want to know also, those geometric shapes next to her face on the left, I think that they really complement her, and I think she looks really great there. So I think overall, having more geometrics, more of a simple look really complements her, and that's consistent with her body type as well. So now I want to discuss these two looks. So this is another example. On the left, in that sort of flowy look, I think she looks a little bit awkward, and I think it's because, again, the flesh on her cheeks is pretty taut for her weight, and her vertical line is long, so her head looks pretty small relative to her body. So overall, having any sort of extremely delicate type of look isn't going to suit her as well as a simple dramatic classic look. And you can see on the right there, she has a more simple look. Her hair is more simple, and I think she looks really great, or she looks much better on the right. So here are two more examples. So on the left, we have a bit more of, you could say some dramatic classic there, and on the right, also dramatic classic. I think on the right, she looks really great. I don't know about that bright yellow, bright orange jacket on the right, but that dress, I really want to talk about the dress on the right, and I think it really suits her well. That very simple dress, very fitted, some sharp angles in the dress, but not much. Basically a classic dress, and her hair is very classic, and I think she looks really great there. So now let's talk a little bit more about Jamie Lee Curtis. So, what happens as you gain weight within one person. So I think that Jamie looks really great in dramatic lines because she's a dramatic. So you can see that on the left, she's much thinner. She's also younger. In the middle there, I think she's about the same size as she is on the right. And on the right, she's wearing her dramatic lines and she looks great. It still suits her quite well, even though you can see maybe she does have like a little bit of extra weight, but I don't think it's a big deal. It doesn't change her body type or anything like that. I think she looks really good in that tailored suit, long vertical line. Okay, let's take a look at Rihanna. Rihanna on the left is a bit heavier. In the middle, she's very thin, and you can see in the middle that look, you see how, I think she might be thinking, oh, well, I look quite severe, quite dramatic here. She kind of looks like she's going for a Keira Knightley look there in the middle, but at the end of the day, she still has a lot of softness. So for her weight in the middle, her bust line is quite large, again, for her weight. And this is all about the proportions within her own body, and her cheeks are quite soft, and she looks very dainty still, very thin, but very dainty and very feminine. And you can see that also she looks like she's at a similar weight on the right, and she's wearing more theatrical romantic hair. And I think she looks really, really great on the right in those theatrical romantic lines, even though she is really thin, because again, you can see that she has a lot of softness. And we didn't even talk in this video about the things that don't change with weight, like the size of your lips and the size of your eyes. So keep that in mind as well. Rihanna, she has really full lips, really large eyes, and remember, like 10 years ago, we also talked about Mary-Kate, and Mary-Kate also had full lips and round eyes that don't change, and those features don't change with weight. So that's it, you guys. Thank you for watching. So the whole point of this is, larger or smaller sizes, same lines. So if you gain a bit of weight, still wear your own lines. Just make sure that obviously, your clothes fit you. So, you don't wear the same clothes if you gained a lot of weight or lost a lot of weight. You just get new clothes that are still in your own lines that fit you really well, and that's about it. They're still going to look good. You're still going to be the same body type. Do you have any questions or comments? Let me know. Video suggestions, I'm having a Kibbe Q&A coming up, so let me know if you have any questions that are not necessarily like an entire video, but some small questions that you want me to cover in a Kibbe Q&A. I would be happy to do that. Leave them down below. Check out my website, mariamstyle.com. Yeah, thank you for watching.